Hello and welcome to the new features for VectorPro 8.2. There are two versions available, one with SQL Server and one without SQL Server. When you're upgrading your software, please take all precautions, and it is best paired with firmware version 3.1.10. If you're upgrading, it may also upgrade the ELS firmware. If you are in any doubt, please contact Mecmesin technical support, who will be able to assist you. First thing we're going to look at is custom domains. So we're creating a new test here. We'll give it a name, and we'll choose our machine, and we'll choose our direction of travel. And now you can see that we have the default access. So these are all the normal access that are given with Vector, which is at load and time, load displacement, displacement load, stress time, strain time, and stress versus strain. So these are the default access that you always used to get. If you click OK, you will get those access. We've introduced a button here called custom. So if you click on the custom access, you're able to choose the two axes that you want. So we give you a list of all the available axes, both the X and the Y, and you can choose from these. So what we're going to do in this instance is we're going to choose the load axis. We can give it a unique label. That will be the label on the graph. So we'll call that force, and our displacement, we're going to call it extension. Once we're happy with that, we can add it. And now we've created a custom axis. We can do it again, we can do it many times. We can choose different axes to report on. And then we can add these in, and this will create all our different graph axes. So we'll call this extension versus speed. And we can add that in. If you've added any and you don't want them, at this point you can just drag and drop them into the bin, and this will get rid of them. Say OK. And now we have a custom axis. Now we're going to create some operations. So normally you would select your operations and you would drag and drop them into the timeline. You can still do this feature. However, what we've also done is we've introduced double click. So if you double click on an operation, it will add it to the timeline consecutively. You can see I'm just double clicking and adding. What we can also do now is we have the ability to put up to 40 operations within the timeline. The double click feature works on most operations. The only ones it doesn't work on is the limits and the conditions, because you need to put those just before the operation that you're intending to use. So let's start a test with my custom domain access. So I've just got force versus extension. If I start the test and do a quick test, and you can see now all I have is my force versus extension axis. Created another test. This time I've added in a second axis. We're just going to perform a test. You can see here now I have two axes available, force versus extension and force versus percentage strain. And I can flip between these two as I could before and perform a test. So my test is done, and I have the force versus strain axis. And if I want to, I can go back and I can change back to a force extension axis. One other change we've made is to the SQL. If you're enabling the SQL, we've increased the password length to a more complex password for the initial logon. This is just for SQL users on first logon. So now we'll look at our new batch features. So first thing we need to do is we need to edit our batch export. So this is the same as before. You can pre-configure your batch exports on what's going to happen, whether you export per batch or per batch set to Excel, CSV, text file. So that's all set up now. Now we can go back to that test, and then we can add a new batch for that test. So it's creating a new batch. We can go through and configure everything as per normal, put in our label, choosing our axis, choosing the number of samples per batch and the number of batches. And once we've done this, we've got our delete samples button. So we can choose to delete this data at completion of the batch or the batch set itself. And what this will do, this will actually record all the data, allow you to export it, but to save memory space within the computer, we will be deleting the actual raw data itself. So if we execute this test, this will be a nice speeded up test to get through our two sets of two samples. And once we've done these, our automatic export will kick in and we'll export to CSV, text or Excel as per our setup. If we go and have a look, we can see we've got our two sets exported there. You still have all the main functionality within the batch itself. We've completed this, it's 100%. We can go back and look at it. We can delete it. We could do a manual export if we wanted of this. We could also do an Excel export, or we could go and print a report using whatever report template we've set up. We can also go back in and view our two sets of two and our results. And if we hadn't completed the batch, we could also go back in and execute and continue that batch. And if we have a look, we'll see all those manual exports that have been done. So our data is now stored in an Excel or a CSV format. And if you go back and look at the test results itself, you'll see all the tests are there, but there is no data recorded. So we're just giving you the time at which the tests were done and the numerical number of them. You can see there's no graph data, and there are also no results presented. Those are the features of VectorPro 8.2. Thank you for watching.